delighted to have Governor Tahesha, the state of New Jersey, join us for a fireside conversation. It will be moderated by Aaron Schubert, Director, Indo-Pacific Office, U.S. Agency for International Development, India.
So good afternoon, everyone, and such a pleasure to meet you, Lieutenant Governor Wei. Welcome to India. It's nice to see another American visiting. I hail from Wisconsin, but now actually Alaska is my home, but I live in Delhi now. So such a pleasure to have you here and to share the stage with you. Most welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk a little bit about women in leadership, and I think it's very appropriate that you are on the stage and to talk a little bit about this. And I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about your leadership journey, how you came to become Lieutenant Governor of New Jersey, a little bit about what your the road looked like, and we'll take it from there. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Schubert. I tell you, it is, appropriate for me to close out my delegation stay with SAWIE, just because anytime I can convene and, just be in fellowship with my, colleagues, my female colleagues, I should say, who are empowering this world is a great thing and a true blessing to me. So I just want to thank the organization for, of course, having these important talks and just for what you do organizationally. So, Mr. Schubert, I could give the War and Peace version of my journey onto leadership, but unfortunately I have to catch a plane, so I'm going to try and give the abridged version now. In all truthfulness to everybody, I never grew up saying I want to be lieutenant governor or hold any position governmentally. So I say for me, I have a slightly different journey onto how I am here now. I have to start, though, Mr. Schubert, with my parents, right? My parents, they were not government elected officials. They were just ordinary people in New York City. My dad, he drove a bus, a city bus, and my mother was an Underground Railroad clerk. And I mention them just because they were not the government officials, but nonetheless, I saw growing up that they just had a public servant heart, meaning they just wanted to service their communities and do it with integrity. My father, he would so pride himself for over 25 years driving the city bus. He never got into one accident. My mother, she was the Underground Railroad clerk, and in the evening, she witnessed homeless people. And while she would go across the street, get herself a midnight snack, she would also get those homeless some food too, namely sandwiches. So I saw that in them, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do until I got to the age of 19. And it was a true inflection on my walk in life. I suffered what they call an AVM, which is a cerebral hemorrhage. It's not as well known as an aneurysm. And so at that time, I had to self-reflect in college and say to myself as an English major, what is it that you, Tahesha, want to do? Now, I saw that my neurosurgeon and his team, made my life whole, and as they did with others. But I was not a science, I'm sorry, y'all, I'm not a science nor mathematics, girl, English. And that's when I sat down with one of my deans at Brown, and he and I were discussing, and he said, well, also, Tahesha, you want to make an impact in life, but you too you have always been a student who advocated for the needs of others on campus, like need-blind admissions. So from there, that's when I said, and he even mentioned, why don't you just go to law school, simple as that. And I said, wow, advocating, research, writing, that's in my bailiwick. So I then got into law school at the University of Virginia, and I applied to University of Virginia's law school because I did my research and I saw how they graduated a good number of folk who were public servants, notable public servants. And so from there, you know, graduating from law school, my husband and I, we moved to New Jersey. We're starting out. He played professional sports for the NFL, and I credit that moment too because I was able then to engage in a good deal of grassroots and nonprofit organizations, especially those that were dedicated to women and their needs. And so from that point, I'm also a civil litigator. I'm in the courts. And during recess, I would speak with my fellow members of the bar talking about social issues. And then all of a sudden, I get a knock on my door. And my county organization, they had a vacancy in the county commissioner board. And they just asked me, would you be interested in in running for office and filling this position as a county commissioner in my home county of Passaic. And I think that that was my journey. I lost my second race, but everything worked out because I then decided, you know, when the opportunity came before me to become a state judge, and that was a perfect marriage as an administrative law judge between the law and government, my two passions. I stepped down from there. I'm trying to be as quick as I can be, but I know I'm not. I stepped down from being in that position, and I went back to my roots. I led the caucus, the Women's Caucus of Democratic Women in my county, and that's when I came across our great governor who was running at the time in 2017, Phil Murphy. And he and I, you know, developed a friendship relationship. He saw what I was doing out there politically. And he, you know, once he successfully won, he offered me the position of New Jersey Secretary of State, which I have held since 2018. I oversee democracy. I also oversee tourism. There's a business action center, all of the cultural commissions. I think that that's one of the major reasons I'm here with the mighty India Commission, which is under my Department of State. And then, you know, volunteerism, all of the good cultural and quality of life portfolios one can find. And then I want to say about last year, unfortunately, we lost our lieutenant governor. And that's when Governor Murphy was, you know, trying to identify who could take her position. And it's been an honor to serve alongside him as lieutenant governor. I'm second in command. Whenever he's not available in the state, I become the acting governor. But at the same time, I have various portfolios that I am focused upon, like higher education, affordability, and accessibility. I'm also laser focused on childhood, early education and success, and wealth disparity, and I'll leave it as that.
Thank you. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I wish she was here to hear that story. It's quite inspiring, but I thank you for sharing that with us.
I forgot to say I do have 4 daughters too.
I mean,
So it's all about female empowerment, so thank you for lifting up your 4-year-old daughter.
absolutely. So I think we live in unprecedented times with COVID-19, the pandemic, certain political polarization in the United States. We also face climate change and uncertain weather patterns, and we're seeing torrential downpours like we've never seen before in certain parts of the U.S., coastal erosion I'm sure you're experiencing in New Jersey. What do you think are some of the most important qualities and characteristics of a leader in this century to navigate some of these challenges?
Thank you for that question, because there are complexities that we are dealing with nationally and internationally. I always say that, you know, when I go around meeting our residents, you know, I have conversations with them, asking them not only what is your needs, what do you want of me, right? And the one thing that I always hear is that I want someone such as yourself to lead with transparency and honesty. And I think that that's exactly what we need in this universe. I do believe if you lead with the honesty and transparency, you then are able to meet people where they are, the different interests, and hear them out. I also feel like a successful leader is someone who really understands that it is a team in all that you do, because you don't know every single thing. You want your experts at the table. I always say to the female leaders, right, that you want to have your board of directors, if that's how you want to claim them, in different spaces, so that they too can empower you and give you the information and the knowledge so that you can properly serve whomever it is that you are so called to do.
Thank you so much. So as we all know, the U.S. and India have a strong partnership bridging many areas, from education to healthcare to technology. I wonder where you see opportunities for women to help further strengthen that partnership and drive collaboration between the two countries.
Yeah, I see women positioning themselves everywhere, and I think that the beauty with our delegation, when I saw on our India Commission that there are some successful, powerful women, I was just so heart-filled, I must say. And I also feel that, that's why we have these economic and cultural delegations, and do have women who are a part, who are, voicing their interest and strategies in meetings. And I truly feel that that is a good way. We've signed various MOUs, and the hope is, especially the MOUs with the universities, that it taps into all of the richness that our female leaders and professionals can come to the table with, especially with STEM, because we oftentimes, think that it's not the female field, if you will. I'm very proud. I mentioned 4 daughters. I carry them everywhere I go. And our 3rd daughter, is an engineer major. And, she oftentimes tells me, not only in her classroom, but she also says, well, Mom, I'm going out into the field, on these little internships. And she said, but I'm the only girl there. So what do I do? And so I always remind her of what my mother used to always tell me when she dropped me off to school. Well, Faith, you just need to be present and understand your value and know how you can contribute. You've worked hard, you studied hard, you are meant for these times. So, I think that the collaborations, having female leaders in the commissions, what SAWIE is really doing, these organizations are truly valuable. Back in New Jersey, there are various, I want to say affinity organizations, South Asian women. You are truly doing your things in all different spaces, in the law, in tech, in energy. And also, just having that Executive Women New Jersey, that's another group, right? Which brings all women together, because that's the other thing about it. It's powerful when all different constituencies are in a place and they can not only state where they come from culturally, but they can also bring about, the best practices that they've learned historically through their heritages to try to move things forward.
Thanks. I think I'll talk a little bit more about being parents. And I think we become hypersensitive to some of the issues that are impacting our children. So the other day I was in the classroom and the teacher was talking to the kids at a table about their day and how everything was going at home. And then they started talking about what their parents do. And she said, well, what do your mommies do? And then she was talking about how mommies cook and mommies clean and mommies pick up the kids from school. And that's not what she said about the daddies. So I went to talk to her afterwards and was just asking, it bothers me that you were talking to my daughter about a future for her to be cooking and cleaning and picking up the kids from school, but you weren't talking about her being an astronaut or an engineer. So I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about some of the unique challenges that women face as leaders and in life in general.
Yeah, and that's a fine point, Mrs. Schubert. Again, everyone, in my humble opinion, is so purposed to do, their walk of life, right? And so if it is, the home care, home taking, that's perfectly fine, right, in everyone's space. But of course, I think that universally, everyone still needs to be equal and put on the same plane, if you will. Now, I'm going to say something, and I'm just going to be as transparent as I can. We all know that the majority of our systems are set up for men, right? But we also know that it's become a time in which, we should all value gender, we should all value each other's race. And so, for me, I just think that as women, as female leaders, we just need to continue, right, in partnership with different organizations, which have the same mission and have the same goal of uplifting, right, and encouraging and empowering women to be in all different spaces. And I also feel, it should not just be like the female organizations doing this, it should be all organizations recognizing that women should take a proper place. And by no means am I saying, or would I ever say, that women, or anybody should be put in front of another. It's just all about, equality. I look back at, in the States, in 2020, when, year of COVID, right? For us, we celebrated the 19th Amendment. And it was the 100th anniversary of when women gained the right to vote, which is significant and important. And still, even today, there are some impediments for various women to vote, and that should never be the case. So, I just feel as though conversations like this are good, but of course we need to, make certain that we are authentic. And that goes to when women have an opportunity to be in a specific position, for all of us to understand that there should be some genuine support as to what they are able, or we are able to do, because I feel, as a mother of four, who has 2 jobs, Secretary of State and Lieutenant Governor. At the same time, I'm a wife. At the same time, I have a dog, who's 16 years old. So he has his needs too. And it is a juggling experience. And I think that, as women, that's the one thing that we do. We know how to juggle. So I hope that answers the question.
It did. Thank you so much. One other quick question, just to touch a bit on technology. So with the explosion now of artificial intelligence, unless you need to go. Yeah, are you okay for one more question?
I think one more, because I do need to
Okay.
catch my plane. And
Okay.
I can do it all, but I can't miss a plane.
You can't, okay. So the next one is just about technology, so artificial intelligence and the growth of smartphones in different markets. What role do you think technology can play to help further empower women?
Well, the good thing I always say about technology is now, you never, I don't think that anyone should hear that, oh, I can't do my job just because, let's say, if my child is sick and if I'm at home, and this goes for the dads too, okay? So that's the one good thing about technology now, that you can work remote when needed in a certain situation, get the job done, right? And I also think technology is good because it brings all of us, and especially female leaders, because I know that I do this very often, together virtually, right? I can actually be remote, and another female leader in a different country, in a different state, and she and I can then engage in whatever policy discussions that we would want to have. So, I think that with the modern tech, with AI, all of these good things actually buttress, if you will, the relationships, because At times beforehand, it was more so we have to be in the same room to accomplish our goals. But now we're able to be across in different spaces to bring value and have success in all that we do. I have one more quick question. You have
Yes.
one more?
No.
Okay.
Unless you want, if you have time. Do you have time?
Just one more. I love this. I love this. That's the problem. My special assistant, she knows this and she knows this well. I'm always saying, I got to go, I got to go. And then I always stay 10 minutes later and then I miss my plane. And then my dog and my 10-year-old daughter will be very upset.
So you have a wealth of experience and your story was very inspiring. I wonder if you have a few bits of advice you'd like to share with people in the audience, or especially young, aspiring women leaders.
I appreciate that, and that is going to be, this will be our last one, Mr. Schubert. You've been a pleasure, I tell you. We got to get to know each other. I just have to say, please, because folk had always, while I was working myself up, you know, I would always hear hire, support women, and please do that. I'm saying in my Department of State, my majority of my directors are women. My entire staff at the department, at the LG office are women. And you have to be sincere about it. You know, even when I go into colleges and speak, and I have, you know, the young college students, they come, oh, how can I intern? How can I intern? And how can I intern? And the one thing I will always say to my staffer as I get their numbers is make sure I slide the women up to the top. No disrespect, gentlemen, no disrespect. But, you know, my chief of staff at the Department of State is a man, okay, so no disrespect. So, but that's just what in my hearts of heart, I really try to do. And that's what I impress upon all of us, because we all know this world is competitive, right? But we all have a place in this universe. And our goal is to ensure that we're not leaving anyone behind. And I go back to what I had mentioned when I spoke about my daughter Faith. And I've said this to all of my daughters. I carry on my mother's tradition. I just say to be present. For me, it has been difficult because I even remember when I started out as Secretary of State. I was the only African American state secretary in the United States at the time, you know, overseeing elections. And I've walked into plenty of rooms, not only being the only African American, but also being the only female. But I then think back to 6-year, 7-year, 8-year-old girl, Tahesha Wright at the time, and my mother would say, Tahesha, just be present. And she was telling me, you don't have to be the talker in the room, the loudest person, but just know you belong in that room too, or you wouldn't be there. And so I just impress upon all of our young ladies to just be present and understand that you're valuable and understand that your value is going to have a ripple effect on others. So.
Thank you so much. Can we have a round of applause, Lieutenant Governor Wei? Such a pleasure.